Just please respond. Um,
Yes, sir.
okay then. So this is what we have done last class. The production. We talked about the production economics and something like fact. I think till this, or I think probably this is what we have done. No. So the state of the technology and so on. So we'll continue from this point, and we'll define a concept called production function, and that is nothing but Q of P is a quantity produced or production demanded or something like that. So that is what we define that by Q of P equals to the function of building, land, capital, and so on. So this is what all the factors of production. So something like this is very important. The quantities of physical input and quantities of outputs of goods. So that is what basically a production function. In most of the other cases, like the demand supply, we didn't talk about the output as such. We only talked about the demanded and supplied, or in other sense, it's just like a one entity. But in production, it is a two entity. It includes input and also it looks the output. So it is not only the input feed into to produce something, but also the output, the factor that comes out of your process. So that is what basically production is, and production has a very important role in any economy. And I told you there's one saying like in economics, like you cannot teach economics to a caterpillar by teaching them with supply and demand. It's only in supply and demand. So which means that only in supply and demand is not the complete economics. So that is what they say. And production is the other sector, and which has a huge impact on the economy. And this is the production function. It need not be all the factors. That's what it says. Not all businesses require all the factors. It depends on supposing you are a real estate, then the building, land, capital might be an state of technology may not be an influencing factor in a real estate or a land promoters, because technology doesn't do anything to the what do you call it? It can do for the production of automobiles or something, but it does not that much viable in terms of a land or a real estate promoters or something. So that is what it says, like um, probably not all the factors are required, or the number of inputs required. Generally, we shorten these terminologies into two things. One is called labor and capital, capital K, which is the physical investment or the monetary investment and something like that. And also the labor. So labor is the workman or machinery. Machinery can also be considered as a labor or a task force or a work crew or working crew, and so many terminologies. All those things you can call that to be a labor. And probably like this thing, all the land and building, so many factors, business initiative, entrepreneurship, and so on. Okay, this is just a abstract idea, but what people have defined, or people have spent a lot of time and effort in developing the production function is two persons, like the Cobb and Douglas, Charles Cobb and Paul Douglas, the two person who have done extensive research on the production function, and they have developed a formula for land and capital. I mean, sorry, labor and capital. And the formula is the production demanded for land and labor and capital equals to function of A is a constant, and L is the labor power alpha, and K is capital power beta. Alpha and beta are the output of elasticities. Okay. Alpha talks about the output of elasticity of what do you call the labor, whereas the capital being constant, and beta being the coefficient or the output of elasticity of physical capital, where labor is constant. I'll tell you, I'll explain this in much detail. So this is the formula where Cobb Douglas has really put their heart and soul into it. There are many criticism on this formula. Some they oppose this formula because this does not work for all the sector. Of course, Cobb and Douglas have done this for manufacturing sector. Many people argue that this may not be a good solution for any agricultural sector or any other related sectors. So this is not valid. But actually, despite much criticism, this formula holds good till now. So many really appreciate this formula, and that is what they use for anything. You can use it for any application, this particular formula. And instead of the labor, you can use other terminologies of, I mean, the other factors of production as well. So depending on that, this formula holds very good. So it is approximately, or it could actually give a value, a reliable value, something, a reliable result, something like that. And Q is the quantity produced from the input, the labor and capital, and F is the function of A being a constant. It's called total productivity, total factor productivity, and alpha and beta are the also constant, and that is what we call output elasticities of the input. And K is the amount of physical capital invested, something like it could be a manpower, or it could be something like an effort, human effort, or called labor constant, or monetary input, something like that, as number of hours for a particular machine, or something like that. They say K also depends on the labor. When I say labor constant, it is the output produced by the working crew for 8 hours duration, and a particular week. For example, if it is a 5-day working week and 6-day working week, and it is a monthly project, or a yearly project, and so on. So depending on that, what is the productivity, that is what we call a labor constant. Typically, labor constant is considered to be, standard labor constants are 1 day duration, and it's not 1 day duration, it's 1 day, in a 1 day 8-hour duration, and typically one labor. So how does a one labor produces that particular task in a 8-hour duration is typically considered to be a labor constant. So that is what the capital K also represents. Then Cobb Douglas have defined, they are actually from United States. They have calculated the values for alpha and beta, and also the factor A. And also they have found out the value of the Q suffix Lk, which is nothing but 1.01 for the United States, or for the manufacturing sector, and alpha, which is nothing but 1% change in the labor input, whereas the capital remains constant, is 0.75 change in the output. So 1% change reflects in 0.75% change in the output, whereas the beta is nothing but 1 minus alpha, so which means nothing but 1 minus, I think it's the reverse, it's not 0.75, it should be 1 minus 0.75, it's 0.25. So this, take it as beta. This is beta is 0.25, and with the coefficient of r square, this is very important. So understand this carefully. R square is the coefficient of determination. Whenever people does some experiments, they finally conclude that with r square. It is not r square power 3, it is the footnote. So 1, 2, 3, it is not alpha power 1 or beta square, it is just the footnote. Just kindly make sure that you don't confuse that. And this r square is nothing but the coefficient of determination, which is 0.9409. The perfectly correlated value is 1. So which means that if I could able to get r square as 1, so which means that my formula exactly correlates, or exactly supports the actual process. But that's not possible. No formula can give exactly what happens. Say for example, if I develop a formula, and I just say based on your characteristics, if I input that formula, if that produces your mark, and when I correlate with your actual examination mark, if it is exactly the same, then that's kind of I can even get a Nobel Prize for that, because it cannot, all equations or all processes should have a variation. So that is what we generally find out from the coefficient of determination. But in this case, you see it has got 0.9409, and you convert that into percentage, that will be 94% or 95 if you could able to round it off something, 94%. And you could see the actual processes happens in the real industry. Using this formula, you can predict it to a 94%. So 94% of variation depends on the dependent variable but accounted by the variation in the independent. So which means it's almost correlating. It could the Cobb-Douglas formula is 94% accurate, something like that. So that's kind of a very huge number. Generally, R square will be in the range of 0.78 to 86, something like 74, 86 to 86%, but it is more accurate. That is why the Cobb-Douglas formula still exists now, even though it was proposed in 1928. It still holds pretty good. So that's kind of a very, very interesting thing to note down about Cobb-Douglas production function. And the next thing is like we come back to this. This is an interesting paper that I've read by E. Nemers, and he has developed a formula. I mean the same concept based on what you call the production function. You just say O. O is nothing but the output of a transformer. Okay, so the transform, this is an electrical example. So the transformer as an output in terms of kilovoltage ampere, and that is equals to 0.196 H. H stands for the average hours worked per day, or do not confuse the terminology, it's just an hours of the transformer use, and N is the number of people involved or the number of workmen employed or something like that. So he asked very well, all these things are based on his understanding uh, of the transformers and the different simulations carried out in transformer sector and so on. So this is the formula. O equals to, it's not 0, it's O. So to differentiate the 0 and O, I've just made it italics. So capital O equals to 0.196 H power 0.880 and N power 1.815. Okay. Now let's substitute. There are transformer comes in a different variety, 1200 kilovolt ampere or 1300 kilovolt ampere or 1400 kilovolt ampere and so on. So it comes in that particular range in the increasing 100 kilovolt ampere. And in this case, we talked about the basic thing, a standard value, say 1200 kilovolt ampere, and we substitute in terms of O. Then we just take 38 men required. This is all standard based on the numbers. He say like 38 people required for 1200. Then we can substitute the value of N to 38 and O to 1200, and we can find the value of H. Say for example, H is 1200 equals to 0.196 H power 0.880, 38, which is the value of N power 1.815. And when you what do you call do 38 power this and multiply that with 0.196, you will get 144.40 H power 0.880. Then you take this to the other side, 1200 divided by 144.40, that will yield 8.31 and H power 0.880. You can take, if you don't have a scientific calculator, which is, you can take this particular 1 by 0.88 root of 8.31. You can very well take logarithm of this and logarithm of this, you'll get a value. Then anti-log, you take it at the other side, then you can find the value of H to be 11.09 hours. But nowadays you have a sophisticated computer and web technology, probably you can find out this directly. So H is equal to 11.09 hours. So the task for the today is, I've just find out for 1200 kilowatt. You can find the value. Can you find the value of H to be H in terms of 1300 kilovolt ampere? It's 100 extra. It's 1300 kilovolt ampere, and N to be 40 men. You take the value of N to be 40 men, and the next class we will discuss the answer. What is the value of H? Correct? Okay, so that will be your ungraded task or assignment. It is not much, it doesn't take much of your time, just like 10 minutes or something. Only thing is to substitute value of N to be 40, sorry, and O to be 1300. So in that case, probably you could understand the importance. But you can even vary 1200 with 40 men also. So you just do this calculation whenever you're free. It's ungraded assignment. Do not confuse that with a graded. So You can do it by Sunday. Absolutely not necessary to complete by today. You can take your time till Sunday and we'll see the answer. We also discuss the answer next class. And this is what we talked about, the production function and the famous Cobb-Douglas production function, and the Cobb-Douglas for the production function, the value for the United States. Uh, I think you can even try finding Cobb-Douglas production function for India. So if you could able to find an Indian values, just let me know. So that will be a great help for us, because United States, it's fine because that's the original creator. He has done the value and proposed. Find out people who have used Cobb Douglas for Indian sector. Okay, so that's kind of a very important. Okay, so next we will be doing a very interesting thing. In fact, it's just like you will like this because it's there for your daily life, or you have to deal with this, not necessarily for this course alone. If you wanted to take an bank loan, or if you wanted to invest in a bank or a financial institute, you should know about this. It's called time value of money. And most of the American textbooks, they call this a fancy terminology called mathematics of money. So remember the famous movies, the Moneyball. They talked about the mathematics of money in much detail, the time value of money, the frequency, the sampling, and so on. Okay, so I think many of you will know what is a simple interest and a compound interest, but there are some terminology associated with production, and that is called nominal interest rate and effective interest rate. Nominal interest rate is also known as APR, which is annual percentage rate, and APY is annual percentage yield, which is the effective interest rate. And the fourth term, not many would have really used this particular terminology called minimum attractive rate of return. This is pretty much related to a building sector or a construction industry or a production industry. So all other things you can see that in a bank, but the fourth point, which is the minimum attractive rate of return, is for the production sectors, or whatever we could call, we could use for our construction or for the other sectors, related sectors. Let's dive in to what I mean by simple interest. Simple interest is very simple. It is something like the amount you deposit in a bank. Say for example, after 5 years, say in this case, I'll just say 1,000 rupee I'm depositing after 5 years, and the rate of interest is 10%. So bank will give 10%, but actually the 10% is too much. If you remember the ad, the Kotak Mahindra ad, they say 6% interest, which is the very high when you compare to all other banks or something like that. But just as an example, say for example, if you have 1,000 rupee and if you deposit in a bank, and after 5 years, and you get yearly interest of 10%, what is the money you have in the bank after 5 years? So this is a table, simple table. Year zero, which is at present, the principal I have is 1,000 rupee. So I have 1,000 rupee with me. I'm ready to invest in a bank, and the bank is giving me an interest of 10% yearly. So which means that for the first year, I get something called 1,000 into zero point 0.1, which is the 10 divided by 100, the rate of interest, which is 100 rupee. So which means that the base is the same. This is not variable. This is the constant 1,000 rupee which I have invested in the initial year, and 1,000 plus 100 is 1,100. In the second year, I have the same base, the year number 2, or you can even put 100,000 into 0.1, which is 100, and you can add both. So both the things remains the same. I mean the concepts remains the same. You could add the above one, the previous interest and this interest, or you can simply multiply it by 2, that particular year representation, and that will be 200, and at the end of second year you'll have 1,200, and it goes on and on. At the end of this fifth year, I'll have 1,500, which means that 1,500 minus 1,000, which means 500. So I will have 500 rupees extra after 5 years. Okay, so this is a simple calculation. And if the bank, if at all bank or any institution gives you a 10% interest, okay. But this table is little confusing for so many of you. So there's a formula to do that, and this is the formula, which is nothing but the future value. The anticipated value is equals to the present value, which is the principal, or the current value plus, not plus, multiplied by 1 plus n into I. So this is kind of a very, very, very important thing. So the formula states that the initial year for the 0, which is I'm not invested in bank, it is the principal P. The first year, it is the principal plus 1 times the principal into the interest. This is nothing but P plus P into I. We can take the P outside, then it will become 1 plus I. And in the second year, it is the P plus 2 times the P into I. And if you take P outside, this is 1 plus 2 into I. So this is P into 1 plus 2I. And generally, in a generic example, if you have n number of years, P plus n into P into I, if you take P outside from this expression, we'll get P into 1 plus n into I. So this is the formula. The future value given the year equals to that particular principal multiplied by 1 plus the number of years into the rate of interest. Very important to be interesting thing, or an important thing, or a caution to be taken is the interest rate should not be in percentage, it should be in decimals. So that is the only thing, only requisite you should know before solving the simple interest or any type of interest that we will cover in this particular course. Say for example, I've given it for 5 years. If it's for 3 years, I just put in the formula, principal is 1000 into 1 plus 3 into 0.1, and that will become a 300 something like, plus the 1000 will be 1300. And if you substitute for 7th year, which is not a given here, and that will become 1700, something like that. So this is a simple interest, but it's actually hopeless interest calculation. We don't get any benefit out of this. Who's going to be waiting 5 years to get a 500 extra? So not many people are really interested in. So that is why they have got something called a compound interest. Compound interest is the interest to the first you will be having a principal, you will get interest for that principal in the first year. In the second year, that particular quantum which you have got the interest plus the principal, you will get interest for that combination of interest and principal, and it's just like what do you call it? Building upon the recurring value, and you'll get interest for that. So that is a compound interest. The magic of compound interest. One advice I got it from my seniors, or my well-wishers, or my what do you call, friends or colleagues, not colleagues, my friends or seniors, in fact. Many or even people who retire or something like that, there is a one terminology called the magic of compound interest. I think it's my duty, or it's my interest to tell all young minds who will be graduating after 3 years and starting a career. It will be good, you'll take it from me. The advice is that magic of compound interest. um, they say a person invests in a simple interest or a bank or a mutual funds are all risky. They might yield you a good thing, or just like if you see the simple interest, you have to wait 5 years to get 500 rupee, which is kind of an not kind of an for example, the time value of money, uh, the 100 rupees is same in 1970, and today also the 100 rupees is the same, the value is the same, the 100, the denomination is the same, but the quantum or the materials you can buy for the 100 rupees in 1970s is little different. In 1950s, the manager get a salary of 100 rupees. So a top notch company can give only 100 rupees salary. But now 100 rupees nothing. Like you can buy 4 biscuits, something like very, very economical. You just go to buy a popcorn in a movie theater, it's more than 100 rupees. So you see that difference. The 100, the denomination is the same, but in terms of the year it varies. That is why if you invest something in a bank, say for example, if you invest 1 lakh and sometimes after 5 years you get 5 lakh, that after 5 years the 5 lakh may not be as high as the 5 lakh you currently have it at that particular year or something like that. That is called compound interest. So something that has to be done extra to something like that. So one advice I told you, invest in public provident fund. It's called PPF. It's a government scheme, public provident fund. It is the one entity that gives you a maximum rate of interest. In 2012, not in 2012, 2010, it was around 8% of interest, but now it has come down to 6%. But it's good because that's a compound interest. It's not a simple interest, it's a compound interest. Let me explain what is compound interest and I'll tell you how that will be benefited for you if you invest in a public PPF, public provident fund. And you cannot have multiple PPF also because you can have only one PPF. The minimum is 1,500 rupee yearly, and the maximum you can only deposit is 1,50,000. So you cannot go beyond 1,50,000 or less than 1,500. And this is the one. So this is a base. I just made it decimal, so that'll be interesting for you. And 1,000 is my principal, and that will be the base for my first year. And it's as usual the same, 1,000 rupee into 0.10, which is the rate of interest, it will become 100 rupees. So this will become 1,100. If you talk about the year number 1 in terms of simple interest and a compound interest, it's the same. You will not get any other benefits in a compound interest or simple interest, either the same. But in the second year, in the simple interest, we only had the principal, but in this case, we talked about this money. The money with the interest gets accumulated as a base, and that gets multiplied with 0.1, and the rate of interest, and which is 110, and that gets added to this, and that will become a 1,210. What you get is simple money, some 10 rupees extra. So if you could see in a simple interest, the 10 rupees extra. This is just a simple money, 1,000 rupee. If you talk about a lakh, you might get something which is bigger. But okay, in a second year, it's could be able to get me some quantum, not a huge quantum, or some extra money. But the third year, I'll just take that money, 1,210, and I multiply with the interest rate for that particular year. And this is the interest rate plus the previous base money. And that when you add it with 1,331, you see 1,300 is what we get it from the simple interest, and 31st is the huge quantum. So 31 is the kind of a more than 10 rupee, just like twice, more than the twice, 3 times the particular thing. And in the fourth year, you'll get something called 1,464. You see, this money gets doubled. The 10 rupees gets tripled, and it's almost kind of a double, something like it's also triple, something like in the range more than the 2 times the money. And finally, when you go for the fourth year, the money gets increased a huge 64 gets multiplied by 2 or something like that kind of quantum. So 100 rupee extra, 110 rupee extra. You remember the final value of simple interest is 1,500, but in this case is the compound interest. It is, you will get 100 rupee extra. That is a whole huge money. But you talks about 100 rupee, the principal to this is 610.51 rupees is extra. So in other words, a simple interest could only give you 1,500, but in this case it talks about this time. This is for the small example. Remember, you apply for a PPF, and you just start putting your money. You'll really appreciate as the year progresses. PPF, the duration is 15 years. It's not, you cannot take before that, but you can take half the money in 7 years. But if you could able to deposit every year 1 lakh rupee, then finally you'll have a huge sum of money after 15 years, which is not in case of a simple interest, or the 1600 might be very good when we compare to the time value of that money. So that is what we call the magic of compound interest. Same way, you don't have to do this table. We have a formula for that, which is nothing but P into 1 plus I, the whole power n. In a simple interest, it is P into 1 plus n into I, whereas in a compound interest, it is P into 1 plus I, the whole power n. So you can use this formula to find n number of years, the rate of interest is given, and when the compound interest, I mean the principal is given, you can find that in a number of years. Okay, so that is pretty much a very, very, very interesting thing. And probably you would have done this in your schools, like simple interest calculation, compound interest calculation. But how does that really uh, help in a production sector? So that is what the terminology is. It's called the nominal and effective rate. So this is what, for this only we have defined a simple interest and a compound interest. So which is nothing but APY, which is the effective rate, or it is called annual payment yield, equals to 1 plus annual payment rate divided by K, and the whole power K minus 1. So the K is the number of chunks of interest per period. So in a simple interest and compound interest, we talked about uh, the yearly interest. But what happens if your interest rate, if a bank is giving you semi-annually, which is in a 6 months, instead of an interest rate in a 2 months. Say for example, in this simple interest case, we talked about here in annually. For 1 year, it is 0.1. Say for example, it is giving semi-annually, which is in 6 months, it's giving a 0.1 interest, which means that um, this particular thing will be 2. It is not more yearly, it is 2, and this will be 4, and this will be 6, this will be 8, and this will be 10. So that will be the thing. Supposing your bank gives you interest per month, that's a huge thing. Per month, if they start giving you interest, then 12 in 12 months a year, and this will be 12, this will be 24, and so on. 1 into 12, and 2 into 12, 3 into 12, 36, and 48, and so on. So this is a huge money then you'll have in, but nobody's going to give you a monthly interest, but it does happens in a production sector. In a production company, you'll be looking into these aspects. It's called annually, semi-annually, which is nothing but bi-annually, which is a 6 months duration. Annually is one year. We are dividing this in terms of year. So annually means 1 year. So 1 year, the value of K is 1, and semi-annually is biannually, which is nothing but 6 months period, and I got values 2 because 2 6 months in a year, and quarterly is 4. Quarterly means 3 months. 4 3s are 12, so which means that 4 quarters in a year. Remember the financial quarter, they say this first quarter, something like that. And bi-monthly is kind of uh, uh, once, I mean, it's just gonna be kind of 12 months is 12 months, and bi-monthly is 2 months together, something like. I think this terminology may not be as convenient to us, but monthly, annually, quarterly, and weekly and daily probably can see. And next is called fortnightly, which is called semi monthly, which is nothing but 15 days. Fortnight, you remember the magazine that comes in fortnight? Some of the famous magazines in India where comes in fortnight, once in 15 days. So like comics books comes in fortnight because people are really what do you call, restless to wait for a month, so they put in fortnightly, which is like 15 days. So you'll have a 20, you can divide that in terms of year, that will become 24, and 52 weeks in a year, and daily is 365. Daily is kind of a more of an imaginary concept, but the value of K you can note down ranging from 1 to 360.